Vanessa stood in front of the private jet worth $20 million, holding Marcus and mocking me for not being able to afford even a plane ticket. The next moment, the air traffic control center for the entire route suddenly announced, "This aircraft is suspected of asset misappropriation and has been seized." I stepped down from the nearby fleet worth billions, brushed past her shoulder coldly. "Forgot to tell you. This plane, and this whole airport, have just become my private property. Welcome to the show. The exciting story is about to begin. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel." In a cheap motel in Queens, New York, the air was thick with the acrid smell of moldy carpet and cheap tobacco. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the endless rain outside the window, feeling like a stray dog that had just been run over by Wall Street's garbage truck. Just 3 hours ago, the judge's gavel came down and officially declared my marriage to Vanessa Sterling over. Not only that, she brought along her so-called top-tier Wall Street legal team and, by exploiting some financial loopholes from my company's startup days, brilliantly swept me completely out the door. The Hampton Ocean View mansion, the 2 Porsches, and the tech company I built by typing line after line of code through countless all-nighters in the garage, all gone. They had all become legally registered assets under Vanessa's name, and I, Adrian Vane, have nothing left but the wrinkled suit I'm wearing, a cell phone in my pocket, and a bank card showing a negative balance. VRR, the phone I had thrown onto the yellowed sheets buzzed. It was a special attention alert from a social media app. I should have blocked her before leaving the courthouse, but damn curiosity made me unlock the screen. That was a post Vanessa had just published. In the photo, she was wearing the Chanel haute couture evening gown I had spent $10,000 to buy her, snuggled intimately in the arms of a man. That man was Marcus Thorne, a professional gigolo who has long circulated in Manhattan's high society circles, surviving on a mouthful of financial jargon and 2 rows of fake teeth to con his way into free meals and drinks. Now he had become Vanessa's true love. The background of the photo was Manhattan's top-tier Apex Club, with a freshly opened bottle of the Macallan M Rare whiskey on the table. The caption read, "Celebrating freedom and spending a beautiful day with my true soulmate. This glass, to our bright future." Immediately after, the phone vibrated again. This time it was a bank debit alert. "Your joint credit card ending in 4922 was charged $10,000 at the Apex Club. Your account is now severely overdrawn." I stared at the screen, rage nearly searing my retinas. That damn woman! Not only did she take everything from me, she even didn't spare our last joint credit card that we hadn't had a chance to cancel. She used my overdrawn credit to spend $10,000 buying a bottle of whiskey for her lover to celebrate my bankruptcy. I laughed in fury, snatched the cheap glass on the table, intending to smash it hard against the wall. At that moment, a cold female voice, devoid of any emotion and as if mechanically synthesized, suddenly exploded in my mind with no warning. "Beep, detected host experiencing extreme betrayal. Emotional threshold breached, critical point. Binding to the infinite reward system. Binding successful. System rules confirmed. From now on, every sum of money and every resource that the host's ex-wife Vanessa spends on her lovers will trigger the system's critical cashback. The host will receive cash rewards ranging from 1,000 to 10,000 times the amount, or equivalent world-class assets." The hand holding my glass froze in midair. Auditory hallucination? Or have I completely gone insane from this blow? Before I could react, that mechanical female voice continued to announce in a tone that sent adrenaline surging. "System detected. Ex-wife Vanessa has just spent $10,000 on her lover Marcus, triggering critical cashback mechanism. Congratulations, host. This purchase triggered a 1000x cash critical. A $10,000 reward has been generated. The system has automatically opened the highest level anonymous hidden account for the host in a Swiss bank. The funds have completed global offshore laundering, are legal, and cannot be tracked by any government or institution. Issuing your deposit notification now." Ding! My phone screen lit up instantly. This time it wasn't a life-threatening overdraft alert, but an encrypted message from a top Swiss private bank. My trembling finger tapped the message, and that long string of zeros filled my entire vision in an instant. "Dear Mr. Adrian, $1,010 has just been credited to your Swiss Bank Supreme Black Card account. Your current available balance is $10 million. I stared at the screen, breathing so hard it felt like I just finished a marathon. $10 million. Because Vanessa bought that pretty boy a $10,000 bottle of wine, the system just dumped $10 million into my account. I slowly put down the glass in my hand. The previous despair, anger, and frustration were, in that moment, completely replaced by an icy, delirious exhilaration. This is my ex-wife. That foolish woman who thought she controlled everything. She thought that by stepping on me and using my money to curry favor with her new lover, she could utterly destroy me? No, she had no idea that she had just, with her own hands, unleashed a monster capable of devouring all of Wall Street. I stood up and walked to the hotel's stained window. Through the rain-blurred glass I could faintly make out the neon lights of the Empire State Building in Manhattan in the distance. That is the center of capital, where Vanessa and Marcus are now raising their glasses in celebration. Vanessa, spend to your heart's content. I looked at my own face reflected in the glass, twisted from extreme excitement, and couldn't help but let out a quiet laugh. The laughter echoed in the cramped hotel room, carrying a chilling eeriness. For every drink you buy for that piece of trash, I could buy a whole street. You buy him a sports car, I could buy an auto factory. Dance on my grave as much as you like, because every penny you squander is forging a golden slaughtering knife that will dismember you completely. I picked up my phone, put Vanessa's number straight on the blacklist, and then dialed the Swiss bank's 24-hour private concierge line. I am Adrian. I listened to the extremely deferential greeting on the other end of the line, my tone cold and hard as a slab of ice. Arrange an armored Cadillac one for me, and book the most expensive presidential suite in Manhattan you can find. I want to leave this mold-smelling hellhole immediately. The game of revenge officially begins now. The black armored Cadillac one, like a quiet beast of steel, sliced smoothly through the night in Manhattan's raging storm. I sat in the spacious back seat, holding a glass of vintage port freshly poured by my personal butler, feeling the constant warmth from the leather seat. Just half an hour ago I had been sitting in a moldy motel like a homeless drifter. Now, with $10 million in cash in my account, I viewed the world from a completely different, superior angle, as I admired the skyscrapers outside being washed by the rain. The phone in my pocket vibrated twice more. Unwilling to be ignored, I raised an eyebrow and took out my phone. Sure enough, that foolish woman Vanessa had updated her show-off diary on social media again. The photo showed a man's wrist wearing a conspicuously flashy Rolex Paul Newman Daytona vintage watch. The dial glittered with the stench of money under the decadent lights of the Peak Club. Vanessa's caption was nauseating. Only the finest works of art are worthy of my king. $1 million? Just to win your smile. $1 million. I sneered. I'm more familiar with that watch than anyone. It was the limited edition piece I had once wanted to buy at Sotheby's to reward myself when my company went public, but couldn't bring myself to spend the money on after staring at it for so long. Now, Vanessa was unhesitatingly flashing the money she had snatched from me and wearing it on that worthless Marcus's shoddy wrist. Yet instead of feeling even an ounce of anger, I felt my blood rush with excitement. Come on, let the storm come harder. Almost the very second I finished reading that post, the same celestial mechanical female voice sounded in my mind again. Right on time. System detected. Your ex-wife Vanessa has just purchased a discontinued Rolex for her lover Marcus, spending $1 million, triggering asset-critical cashback mechanism. Congratulations. Host. This purchase triggered a 3000X fixed asset critical. The system has automatically acquired 100% absolute controlling interest in the Trinity Manhattan Top Hotel Group for you. The group includes 3 ultra-luxury 5-star hotels located in prime Manhattan locations, with a total estimated value of about $3 billion. All equity transfer documents and offshore trust agreements have been processed by a top-tier dark web legal team at the highest level. Fully legal and compliant. You are now the sole, absolute emperor of the Trinity Hotel Group. Listening to the system's announcement, I couldn't help but laugh out loud in the carriage, and I drained the port wine in my cup in one gulp. A $3 billion top-tier hotel empire. Vanessa spent $1 million to buy a broken watch, and the system directly stuffed Manhattan's 3 most luxurious hotels, along with their land and buildings, into my pocket. Sir, we've arrived. The driver's voice came through the intercom, laden with extreme deference. The car door opened, and 2 bodyguards in black raincoats immediately held up enormous black umbrellas, escorting me toward the resplendent building before me, the Trinity Flagship Hotel. This was one of the crown jewels of the $3 billion asset I had just received. I smoothed out the old suit, all creased from the motel, and strode into the opulent lobby. Underfoot was Italian marble, and above me hung a blindingly large crystal chandelier. A snobbish-looking man in a crisp uniform with a lobby manager nameplate immediately noticed me. He hurried over, his eyes scanning my shabby suit up and down, a practiced but extremely contemptuous fake smile curling his mouth. Sir, this is the Trinity Flagship Hotel. We only receive guests with premium membership status. If you're here to take shelter from the rain or to peddle something, I suggest you try the fast food place down the street. I looked at him, not angry but rather amused. Just as I was about to speak, a VIP elevator in the depths of the hotel lobby suddenly opened with a ding. A rotund man with a Mediterranean hairstyle wearing a tailcoat came tumbling out. He was the hotel's general manager, and also the chief operating officer of the Trinity Group. Sweat drenched his brow. He clutched a satellite phone that had just been hung up, his eyes darting frantically around the lobby until they landed on me. He sucked in a breath, shoved aside the lobby manager who was still sneering at me, and came rushing to me almost on his knees. He bowed at a 90-degree angle, his voice trembling as if he were addressing a deity. Mr. Vane, great Mr. Vane, I'm Richard, the general manager of this hotel. I've just received an urgent encrypted notice from our Swiss headquarters. You have become the new chairman of our entire group. Please forgive my dereliction for not being here at the door to welcome you in person. The lobby manager froze completely. His jaw nearly hit the marble floor as he stared at me, the vagabond, in utter disbelief. I ignored the lobby manager who looked like he was about to wet himself, patted Richard on the shoulder, and smiled. Get up, Richard. Now that I'm the owner here, I need you to check on something for me. Consider it done. Whatever it is, I'll take care of it right away. Richard nodded repeatedly as if he'd grabbed a life-saving straw. Check whether Vanessa Sterling and Marcus Thorne have a reservation at our hotel. Richard immediately waved for the front desk to bring a tablet, swiped it a few times with rapid fingers, and hurriedly reported, Yes, boss. They just reserved our top-floor Royal View suite. They said they're celebrating some important occasion tonight, and should arrive to check in about half an hour. A cruel smile spread wider at the corner of my mouth, the kind that belongs to a hunter. Good. I shoved my hands into my pockets and looked at Richard coolly. Listen carefully. From now on, cancel any reservations they have at this hotel and at any hotel under our group. Add their names to the permanent blacklist. But boss, they've already paid a $100,000 deposit. Give it back to them. Or throw it in the trash. I don't care. I leaned toward Richard and lowered my voice. When they arrive at the lobby, you will personally confront them and, in front of everyone, drive them out like beggars. If they cause trouble, have security use their batons to teach them a lesson. Understood? Richard swallowed, then straightened his back immediately. Understood. Boss, I guarantee the task will be completed. I nodded in satisfaction and turned to head toward the private VIP elevator. Vanessa, you think wearing $1 million Rolex lets you swagger through Manhattan? I'm sorry. Tonight you and your king can only go sleep in the sewer. I stood on the hotel's second-floor circular terrace, rocking a glass of scotch with ice in my hand, looking down over the lobby from above. A few minutes later, the main doors were pushed open. Vanessa linked her arm with Marcus's and walked in like a pair of celebrities stepping off the Oscar red carpet. Vanessa had clearly changed into a hotter outfit, while that bastard Marcus was awkwardly showing off his brand new $1 million Rolex, as if afraid no one would notice. Richard, is the royal suite we reserved ready? Vanessa clicked her $2,000 red-soled high heels against the marble floor, striking an overbearing rhythm. Richard was fully in character. He came out from behind the counter with a frozen expression, followed by 6 burly, expressionless black security guards. I'm very sorry, Ms. Sterling. Richard's voice was as cold as ice clinking against glass. Due to a system error and certain irresistible aesthetic reasons, your reservation has been cancelled. Vanessa froze, the smile on her face vanishing instantly. What did you say? System malfunction? Do you know who I am? I just spent $100,000 to book this. Clear the presidential suite for me right now. The money has already been refunded to your card. Richard didn't even lift an eyelid. He waved his hand, and 6 bodyguards stepped forward in unison, encircling the couple. Now, please leave the Trinity Hotel immediately. In light of the potential visual pollution you have caused to our hotel's refined environment, you have been placed on the global permanent blacklist. Are you insane? I'm going to file a complaint. I'll buy this hotel and make you clean toilets. Marcus screamed like a cornered wild dog. His face, ruined by too much cosmetic surgery, twisted with rage. Buy this place? With that heavily indebted shell company of yours? Richard sneered, his tone full of mockery. By all means. But for now, get out, or I'll have the guards make you get out. I stood on the terrace, watching Vanessa and Marcus, under everyone's gaze, being tossed out into the pouring rain by security like sacks of potatoes. And the long-suppressed anger inside me finally let out more than half. The way Vanessa's expensive silk gown trailed through the muddy water was, frankly, the most beautiful sight of the evening, but I knew this was only the beginning. Marcus brought Vanessa here tonight not just to show off, but with a more sinister motive. My former company, Vane Technologies. Although the company has already entered bankruptcy proceedings because of a debt crisis, I still hold several priceless core cryptographic algorithm patents. Marcus, through Vanessa, seized control of the company. He plans to sign a patent transfer agreement tonight to sell those patents to one of his offshore companies at rock-bottom prices, thereby thoroughly draining the last drop of blood from me. Suddenly, the bank notification on my phone started flashing like crazy again. Beep, system detected. Ex-wife Vanessa has just paid her lover Marcus a $5,000 strategic consulting fee to illegally bribe a creditor's representative, expediting the hostile takeover of Vane Technologies. $5 million. Vanessa really spared no expense to get Marcus promoted. She probably still thinks that money can buy the birth of a tech giant. That mechanical female voice then rang out, its speed so rapid it got the blood pumping. Ultimate cashback mechanism is being triggered. Congratulations, host. This spending triggered a 10,000 times supercritical. $5 billion in cash rewards have been deposited into your secret account, because the system detected that the host's former company is undergoing a hostile takeover. It has automatically activated the reverse hunting program for you. You have now acquired 60% of the equity in North Atlantic Investment Bank. which is the largest creditor to all of Marcus's offshore companies. At the same time, the system has recruited Wall Street's top liquidation goddess, Samantha Reed, as your private CEO. She is waiting for your orders in the VIP lounge downstairs. 50 billion. And the controlling stake in that bank. My hand holding the wineglass trembled slightly from excitement. That meant every way out Marcus had now was actually in my hands. He thought he was playing a clever hunt, not knowing he was the prey locked in an iron cage. I put the glass down, straightened my collar, and turned to walk into the elevator. In the VIP room, a woman in a dark blue tailored suit and gold-rimmed glasses was elegantly flipping through a tablet. She exuded a cool, intellectual air, like a top surgeon ready at any moment to dissect her opponent. Mr. Vane. Samantha stood up and gave me a professional yet fiercely aggressive smile. I'm Samantha. The 50 billion in cash has been credited, and the Peking University share transfer has taken effect. Do you want to cut Marcus's throat immediately? Or play a little cat and mouse first? Marcus is planning to buy everything I once had. Right. I walked to the window and looked down at the two dark figures in the taxi below, trembling and frantically making calls. Yes. He's raising funds and is preparing to make his final bid for the patent at the bankruptcy court tomorrow morning at 9. Samantha pushed up her glasses, a cold glint crossing her eyes. But he doesn't know that the $300 million loan he applied for is now on my desk for approval. No, let him get that money. I smiled coldly. Not just 300 million. We should have him borrow as much as possible. Take out loans. Put up collateral. I want him to believe he's already won. At that moment, I'll tell him that every penny he borrowed. The creditor is me. Samantha's eyes lit up. Got it. I'll arrange for the bank to make an exception and raise his credit limit so he can mortgage all of Vanessa's little savings. By the time he gets to court tomorrow morning, he'll find that what he bought isn't a gold mine but a death notice that sends him straight to hell. Do it. I turned my head and looked at New York under the night sky, my eyes without an ounce of pity. Also check for me whether Marcus has recently been cheating on Vanessa and supporting a few other mistresses. On the side, I think Vanessa would be very pleased to hear news like that. Vanessa, you like spending money on lovers? Then I'll make you spend to your heart's content. The next afternoon, sunlight pierced the clouds over New York, but Vanessa and Marcus's world remained in the middle of a storm. Last night at the entrance of the Trinity flagship hotel, they were mercilessly thrown into the rain by security in front of dozens of high society celebrities. This incident spread like wildfire through Manhattan's gossip circles, to salvage the little face they had left, and to prove to the outside world that they still possessed unshakable wealth. Vanessa made an extremely reckless decision at noon today. She used the principal she had forcibly diverted from my tech company's account to buy outright a vast, top-tier luxury estate with a private helicopter pad in Greenwich, Connecticut's wealthy neighborhood. The estate is worth $50 million. To flatter Marcus, Vanessa not only put the deed directly in his name, but also specially hired a designer to build a huge pink outdoor swimming pool and a tennis court at the center of the estate to showcase their so-called romantic love. At this moment, I was sitting in the chairman's office of the Abyss Temple, and Samantha was reporting the details of this transaction to me. Boss, Vanessa has put almost all her liquid funds into this estate. She thinks this will keep Marcus absolutely confident before tomorrow's patent bid. Samantha set a copy of the sale contract on my desk, mockery written all over her face. Before I could speak, the system alert in my head exploded like a series of violent, muffled thunderclaps. Beep, system detected. Ex-wife Vanessa has just purchased a top Greenwich mansion for her lover Marcus, spending $50 million, triggering asset-critical cashback mechanism. Congratulations, host. This purchase triggered an 8000X supercritical. $400 billion in cash has been deposited into your Swiss bank account. Additionally, the system detected the property's location and special environment and has automatically purchased, at full cost for you, all commercial land, residential plots, the sole private access road ownership, and the municipal sewage pipeline franchise within a 15-kilometer radius around the estate. Total valuation, $10 billion. The ownership transfers have been completed through the National Land Administration. Fully legal and compliant. You are now the absolute lord of this area. $400 billion in cash, plus absolute control over the entire surrounding area. I couldn't help but lean back against the leather chair and let out a low, cold laugh. A $50 million pink mansion? Vanessa and Marcus thought they'd bought a paradise on Earth, unaware that on my turf they'd merely purchased a $50 million luxury cell. Samantha, notify our construction crew. I stood up, buttoned my suit, eyes flashing with a ruthless light. Bring every heavy excavation tool, debris transfer truck, and sewage pump. I'm going to Greenwich myself to give my ex-wife an extraordinarily grand housewarming gift. 2 hours later, Greenwich. Vanessa and Marcus were standing on the lawn of that grand estate, champagne in hand, bragging about their new home to a few third-rate influencers who were there for the money. Marcus even tilted that $1 million Rolex so it glittered in the sunlight. Look, Marcus, this is the life that belongs to us. That loser Adrian is probably hiding in a queen's basement right now eating expired canned food, Vanessa sneered, about to kiss Marcus on the cheek. At that moment, a deafening roar suddenly came from outside the estate. The ground shook and the mountains trembled. More than a dozen heavy excavators, bulldozers, and municipal garbage trucks emitting a pungent stench were lined up in a long row, completely blocking the estate's only private exit road. Hundreds of workers wearing yellow safety helmets quickly strung up yellow caution tape and began frantically drilling holes at the estate gate. What's going on? Who allowed you to work here? Vanessa, furious, stomped in her high heels to the gate and shouted at the foreman. This road is our private access. Get out of here immediately. Sorry, ma'am, the foreman grinned, showing a mouthful of yellow teeth, and pointed to a black Cadillac armored car with red markings idling behind him. We're just following orders. The owner of this land has just issued a construction permit. A car door opened. I stepped down at an unhurried pace, Samantha following behind me holding a thick stack of legal documents. When Vanessa saw my face, she went silent like a hen with its neck cut, her scream dying instantly. Marcus was even more terrified. The champagne glass in his hand slipped and shattered on the ground. Adrian? You damn beggar. What are you doing here? Vanessa widened her eyes in disbelief. Where did you rent these shabby trucks? What do you think you're doing, Mr. Vane? Samantha stepped forward and slapped a document stamped with the Greenwich Town Hall seal right onto Vanessa's makeup-coated face. This is to formally notify you. All the land surrounding this estate, including the only access road beneath your feet, the foundations of the power poles leading out, and all underground drainage pipes, are now owned by Mr. Vane's Abyss Properties. We have just passed the municipal planning approval. From now on, this road will be closed indefinitely for a round-the-clock heavy industrial road widening project. At the same time, in response to environmental protection, we will build a municipal waste transfer station with a daily capacity of 10,000 tons and a large sewage treatment plant less than 10 meters outside the wall of your estate. Tonight, the sewage pipes will be cut and rerouted, and all the sewage systems of your estate will be completely shut down. Every word struck Vanessa and Marcus like thunder from the heavens, mercilessly cracking over their heads. No, this is impossible. Where did you get the money to buy the whole piece of land? This would cost billions, Marcus roared hysterically, veins bulging on his forehead. I walked up to him, looked down at the trembling man, sneered, reached out and lightly patted his surgically altered face. Marcus, you and Vanessa can continue enjoying your $50 million mansion inside. But don't say I didn't warn you. No electricity, no water, no sewage system, and the front gate is surrounded by reeking trash and the constant sound of power drills day and night. You two can fall in love in there all you like. As for going out, sorry, trespassing on private property in Connecticut is legal. My guards have the right to shoot on sight. I turned and waved to the foreman. Start work. Drill with everything you've got. The louder the better. Amid the earth-shaking roar of the drills and Vanessa's despairing screams, I sat back in the car. The pink mansion had completely turned into an isolated island floating in stench and noise, and they could only rot away slowly in despair. 3 days later, Vanessa and Marcus's $50 million mansion had now become a joke. Amid deafening construction noise and the stench of sewage backing up, they couldn't even last 48 hours. They clambered over the backyard wall in disarray and took a taxi back to an ordinary hotel in Manhattan. But the world is never short of fools who are blindly confident for the sake of money. Marcus, trying to recover the face he'd lost in Greenwich and to curry favor with more investors at tonight's Wall Street annual charity gala, did not rein himself in. If anything, he doubled down. Beep, system detected. Ex-wife Vanessa has just paid her lover Marcus a $1,000,000 PR sponsorship fee to get a VIP seat and 5 minutes of public speaking time at the Wall Street charity gala, triggering critical cashback mechanism. Congratulations, host. This purchase triggered a 1000x critical. $1 billion in cash has been credited. Additionally, the system detected that the gala was hosted by the Morgan Blackstone Charity Foundation. The system has forcibly acquired 70% of the parent company behind that foundation, namely the Stellar Media Group, which controls half of Wall Street's media resources. I sat in the back seat of the stretched Lincoln, looking at the ownership certificate the system had issued, a cruel curve forming at the corner of my mouth. $1 million to buy the right to give a speech? Too cheap. Tonight, I would make them, before all of New York high society, experience what it means to suffer an utter, irredeemable social death. Wall Street, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Tonight it was brilliantly lit, a gathering of luxury cars. Nearly all of New York's financial tycoons and political elites had converged here. Samantha, my companion for the evening, wore a black haute couture gown and linked her arm with mine as we entered the hall. Because I had just acquired Stellar Media Group, as the true mastermind behind the dinner, I used an extremely secret alias at the check-in. None of the media or guests knew my real identity. We sat in an inconspicuous corner and quietly watched the far-off spectacle. Marcus was wearing an ostentatious custom tuxedo tonight, strutting through the crowd like a horny peacock. Vanessa, meanwhile, wore a priceless diamond necklace, naturally bought on my credit card. She was strutting proudly, showing off her so-called investment eye to a few socialite ladies, as if she were the next queen of Wall Street. Ladies and gentlemen, at 8 o'clock, the host took the stage, and the highlight of the dinner, the charity auction and speeches, officially began. Tonight, we want to give special thanks to a generous up-and-coming investor. Not only has he donated a large sum to our foundation, he is about to take over a highly promising tech patent. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to the founder of Thorn Capital, Mr. Marcus Thorn. To the stage. Amid scattered applause, Marcus adjusted his tie and strode up to the podium with his chin held high. He began by praising charitable work with that utterly hypocritical set of cliches, then shifted gears and started boasting wildly about his Thorn Capital. In the past week, we successfully locked in a technology patent that will change the world. This bankrupt company called Bond Technologies was originally worthless, but thanks to my unparalleled business intuition, I decided to acquire it outright for the bargain price of $50 million, Marcus said on stage, speaking with confidence and a look of arrogance in his eyes. It turned out the previous founder was simply an idiot who didn't understand how to run a business, and I will lead this technology to glory. Vanessa in the audience applauded vigorously, her face written all over with pride. I sat in the shadows and tapped the table lightly. Samantha immediately caught on and pulled out a tablet. It's time, I said coldly, just as Marcus was about to invite the guests to invest. The huge electronic screen behind the podium suddenly flickered. The screen, which had been showing the charity foundation's logo, instantly switched to an extremely clear screenshot of a bank remittance form. The room fell deathly silent. It was exactly the usurious loan contract Marcus had applied for from North Atlantic Investment Bank to buy my company's patent. It clearly showed an astonishing annual interest rate of 30%. And the collateral was shockingly all the properties and stocks registered under Vanessa's name. What's going on? Who released these images? Turn it off. Turn it off immediately. Marcus panicked on stage and shouted at the backstage staff. But no one paid him any attention, because the actual controller of this media group was sitting in the audience drinking champagne. Immediately, the screen began to roll through detailed police records of Marcus's frauds against 5 other wealthy women over the past 3 years, carried out in the same manner. There was even high-definition video of him losing everything at a Las Vegas casino, kneeling on the floor begging loan sharks for mercy. My God, Thorn Capital is a shell company? This guy is a serial scammer. The financial magnates in the audience began whispering. The ladies who had been chatting and laughing with Vanessa immediately stepped back several paces as if avoiding the plague. Vanessa's face went ashen. She stared at the screen in disbelief, her body trembling uncontrollably. Not only that, a cold, authoritative voice rang through the hall. I stood up, set down my wine glass, and, under the gaze of hundreds of stunned eyes, slowly walked toward the podium. Adrian? Marcus took 2 steps back as if he'd seen a ghost, pointing at me and shouting, Security! Security! Get this bankrupt lunatic out of here! 2 security guards rushed over at the commotion, but before they could get close, Samantha produced a black and gold badge that signified the highest authority of Interstellar Media Group. The guards immediately stopped, respectfully stepped aside, and fell back. I walked up to Marcus and snatched the microphone from his hand. You just said you borrowed money from a bank and planned to buy my patent tomorrow. Right. I looked straight into his eyes, which darted wildly with fear, and my voice carried through the hall via the microphone. Then I suppose I have an obligation to inform you. Just 4 hours ago, North Atlantic Investment Bank was fully acquired by Abyss Capital. I paused, a cold smile that made Marcus's blood run cold crossing my face. And I am the absolute controlling owner of Abyss Capital. Every penny you've borrowed, I am ultimately the creditor. The capital you pride yourself on is nothing more than the principal I lent you to buy a coffin for yourself. I turned and looked at Vanessa in the audience, who was already almost fainting. Also, Vanessa, one more thing. The lover you pride yourself on just pledged the last of your assets that could have kept you alive as collateral to me. I stared at her coldly. So from this moment on, everything you have belongs to me. The hall was deathly silent. Only the muffled sound of Marcus's legs giving way and him collapsing onto the podium announced the complete collapse of this sham empire. That charity dinner was nothing short of a perfect slaughter. Marcus's social reputation and business credit were torn to shreds within hours, becoming the joke of Wall Street. North Atlantic Investment Bank not only immediately froze all his accounts but also issued him a mandatory demand for payment with a 48-hour deadline. Vanessa finally realized she had not become the queen of Wall Street. Instead, Marcus had treated her like an ATM and squeezed the last drop of blood from her. Last night they had the most violent argument, but Marcus, that professional con man, clearly still had a tenacious will to survive and a powerful ability to manipulate. Early this morning, Samantha left the latest intelligence on my desk. Boss, Marcus has convinced Vanessa. He claims there's an offshore trust fund in the Cayman Islands. As long as they can get there, they can use that money to start over. Samantha pointed at the surveillance footage on the screen. They're heading to Tataboro Private Airport right now. I watched the two of them in the video dragging their suitcases like beaten dogs and couldn't help laughing out loud. Escape to the Cayman Islands? How do they plan to get there? By economy tickets? No. To avoid being barred from leaving the country by her creditors, Vanessa used the only remaining unencumbered asset she has. A secret $20 million jewelry trust. Samantha pulled up a flight request form. She chartered the top-tier Gulfstream G650 private jet from Universal Aviation. For Marcus. This is her all-or-nothing escape fund. That familiar, adrenaline-pumping voice of the system roared in my head once again. Beep, system detected. Ex-wife Vanessa has just paid her lover Marcus $20,000,000 and rented a private jet in an attempt to flee. Triggering asset control critical cashback mechanism. Congratulations, host. This transaction has triggered a 5000x asset control critical. $100 billion in cash has been deposited into your account. At the same time, the system has automatically and forcibly acquired an absolute 80% controlling stake in Huanyu International Aviation Group. For you. You now control over 1,000 high-end private jets worldwide, the dispatch rights of 30 top private airports globally, and the highest authority for route approvals across North America. 1,000 private jets. Global air supremacy. I stood up, walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, and looked down at the city I was gradually treading underfoot. Vanessa had spent $20 million trying to fly away, not knowing that the plane she had chartered, along with the entire sky, had already become my private domain. Let's go, Samantha. I fastened my suit button, since my ex-wife and her lover are going on a trip, and I'm their biggest creditor as well as the owner of this airline. Wouldn't it be terribly impolite if I didn't see them off in person? 1 hour later. Teterboro Private Airport, New Jersey. This VIP lounge has always been reserved for top billionaires, but today, Vanessa and Marcus looked like two frightened birds, hiding in a corner and anxiously checking their watches. Marcus kept wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, muttering, "Once we're on the plane, once we reach the Cayman Islands, those debts will all be void. We can start over." Yes, start over. Vanessa clutched her Hermes bag tightly, the only valuable thing she owned. She stared at the silver Gulfstream G650 on the tarmac as if it were the only staircase to paradise. "Ladies and gentlemen, the G650 is ready for boarding." A uniformed ground staff member approached and said respectfully. Marcus and Vanessa breathed a sigh of relief and practically ran toward the tarmac. As they stepped onto the boarding stairs, Vanessa even turned back and spat fiercely in the direction of New York. "Adrian, you lunatic! Even if you buy the bank. What then? You can't catch me. I'll never let you succeed." Just as her foot was about to step into the cabin, the airport's piercing alarm suddenly rang out across the skies. "Warning! Warning! Directive from the Universal Airlines Central Dispatch. Flight G650 must immediately abort takeoff procedures. Cut power to all engines." Around the runway, 4 heavy airport fire trucks with flashing red warning lights sped in like beasts, directly blocking the plane's takeoff path. Moments later, dozens of armed airport security officers swarmed the boarding stairs. Marcus and Vanessa froze in place, stunned by the sudden turn of events. "What are you doing? I paid $20 million to charter this plane. You have no right to stop me," Marcus shouted hysterically at the security chief standing at the foot of the gangway. "They indeed have no right to stop you. But I do." A cold voice came from the far end of the tarmac. I was sitting in a black Rolls-Royce Phantom drophead, escorted by 2 tall bodyguards, slowly driving toward the gangway. I had a freshly lit Gauspa cigar between my lips, my eyes staring at them like 2 bugs about to be crushed. "Adrian?" Vanessa screamed, her voice sharp and piercing with sheer terror. How are you here? This is Universal Airlines, private property. You don't have permission to be here." I didn't answer her. I just raised my hand and tapped the ash off my cigar. The current CEO of Universal Airlines standing beside me immediately grabbed a megaphone and stepped forward, loudly reading out to the 2 poor fools on the gangway. "Formal notice to you both. Just half an hour ago, Mr. Adrian Vane completed a full acquisition of Universal Airlines Group. This aircraft, this apron, and all the routes you intended to use are now Mr. Vane's private property." Vanessa's legs went weak and she sank limply onto the gangway. Her eyes were filled with a disbelief so desperate she couldn't form a single word. Her lips trembled. Marcus looked ashen. He knew the Cayman Islands' dream was completely shattered. "Vanessa, you're standing on my plane, stepping on my boarding stairs, trying to run away with the money you stole from me." I opened the car door, walked slowly to the bottom of the stairs, and looked up at the woman who had once been untouchable. "Now, this plane is suspected of asset embezzlement, and has been seized by me." I blew out a plume of smoke and issued the final ultimatum coldly. "You've got 10 seconds to get down. Otherwise, I'll have the special agents treat you as terrorists and shoot you dead at the cabin door." 10, 9. Before I could count to 8, Marcus was already crawling and scrambling down the gangway like a dog. Vanessa cried out in despair and was dragged down roughly by 2 special agents. The sky is mine. You have nowhere to run. When people are driven into a corner, they often make the most foolish struggles. Marcus and Vanessa were utterly humiliated at Teterboro Airport, almost completely ostracized by New York high society. But Marcus, a wily fox who had long circulated in the socialite scene, still had one last card up his sleeve: public opinion. He knew full well that in today's internet age, as long as one knows how to act, even black can be turned into white. That same night, a carefully edited video suddenly blew up on social media. In the video, Vanessa, eyes brimming with tears, tearfully accused me. My ex-husband Adrian is an extremely selfish, violent paranoiac. Not only did he exert mental control over me during the marriage, but after the divorce he used despicable business tactics to forcibly seize property that rightfully belonged to me and my new partner. He even deployed black security guards and private armed personnel to restrict us in Greenwich and at the airport. We cannot even guarantee our personal safety now, with several unscrupulous entertainment outlets pushing it. The video instantly exploded across the internet. For a time, armchair critics who didn't know the truth began to follow the trend and lash out at me. Tags like boycott Abyss Capital and trial the tyrant Adrian flooded social platforms. To stoke the fire further, Vanessa gritted her teeth and sold the last few heirloom pieces of jewelry, raising a full $10 million, which she paid in full to a public relations firm that billed itself as Wall Street's king of dark PR, buying out top trending slots across major social platforms in an attempt to use public opinion to nail me to the pillar of moral shame. I sat in my office, staring at the screen at those insanely abusive comments, my face unmoved, even feeling a little amused. Just then, that system female voice that always delighted me sounded in my mind right on time. Beep, system detected. Ex-wife Vanessa has just paid her lover Marcus $10 million in PR fees to maliciously smear you on social media, triggering the public opinion and tech control critical cashback mechanism. Congratulations, host. This transaction triggered a 6000x super critical hit. $60 billion in cash has been deposited into your offshore account. At the same time, the system has automatically and forcibly acquired an absolute 80% controlling stake in the world's largest social media parent company, Matrix Technology Group, as well as 100% ownership of the world's leading cybersecurity and intelligence analysis firm, Prism Defense. You are now the absolute ruler of global public opinion and cyberspace. $60 billion in cash, plus control of the social giant that handles half of the world's internet traffic. I tapped the tabletop lightly, listening to the system report these chilling asset changes in my mind, and couldn't help laughing under my breath. Vanessa had spent $10 million trying to drown me in online public opinion, not knowing that she had just handed the internet's divine right into my hands. Boss, do you want me to have PR clarify things? Or just block their accounts? Samantha pushed the door open and came in, holding a crisis PR plan, a trace of worry in her eyes. Clarify? Block accounts? I shook my head, pulled out a cigar and lit it. No, Samantha. If we delete posts outright, those stupid netizens will only think I'm guilty, that I'm using capital to shut their mouths. Since they want to put on a the weak versus the tyrant play, I'll give them the most shocking ending. I exhaled a plume of blue smoke, my gaze turning ice cold. Contact the Prism Defense we just acquired. I want Marcus's complete original files for Europe, Las Vegas, and every fake identity he's used in the past and all allegations of transnational fraud. Also, his private bed photos with those rich women and the transfer records. Within half an hour. I want this turned into pinned content across the entire web that can't be blocked or deleted. Also, crank Marcus's live stream permissions up to maximum. Isn't he about to hold a truth live clarification? On Twitter, push that live stream onto the screens of every active user worldwide. Understood. Boss. I'll do it right away. A chilling smile tugged at the corner of Samantha's mouth. She had clearly already foreseen what was about to happen. Half an hour later, Marcus and Vanessa sat at a cheap apartment computer, watching the live viewer count in their streams surge higher and higher. 30,000. No, 500,000. Oh my God, there are already 1 million people online. Vanessa watched the wildly flashing numbers, her face twisting with excitement. Marcus, we won. All of America is watching us. If you cry even more pitifully on the live stream, that bastard Adrian is finished. His company's stock will plummet. He'll be investigated by the police. Don't worry, darling. Acting is my specialty. Marcus straightened his collar, a smug and sinister smile crossing his face. He took a deep breath and instantly put on an exhausted, almost choked up look, then pressed the button to start the live stream. Dear viewers, I'm Marcus Thorne. Today, Vanessa and I are here to reveal to the world the true face of the monster Adrian Vane. Marcus performed in front of the camera with tears and sobs, claiming that he and Vanessa were merely victims in pursuit of true love, while I was a villain who used wealth to cover everything. The chatroom's barrage of comments scrolled frantically, with countless people shouting that I should be sent to jail. However, Just as Marcus's emotions reached a peak and he was about to pretend to wipe his eyes, the live stream image suddenly flickered strangely. Immediately afterward, the barrage area on the right side of the live stream was forcibly locked. Marcus on the big screen was still crying and pleading, but to his left, a huge split-screen playback window suddenly popped up. In the video, Marcus was hugging a wealthy older woman with a face full of wrinkles, wildly counting stacks of US dollars on a yacht, smirking as he taunted, "That foolish Vanessa really thinks I'm her true love. Once I get hold of her ex-husband's company's patents, and resell them to the Cayman Islands, I'll kick her to the curb and take you to Switzerland for a vacation." The entire internet fell deathly silent. The air in the live stream room seemed to be completely sucked out in that instant. On the split-screen video, Marcus's gloating voice continued to echo, "That idiot Vanessa. She doesn't even know how her ex-husband's company operates. I just sweet-talked her a bit, and she handed over all the money. Once I get that last payment, who'll care whether she's alive or dead?" The barrage that had been cheering for Marcus and Vanessa a second ago hit a gap that lasted a full 10 seconds. Then, like a volcanic eruption, it began to scroll wildly at 10 times the previous speed. Only this time, the wind had shifted completely. "Oh my God! What did I just see? This is a massive scam. That man is a complete con artist. I'm the clown? I just tipped him $10. Give me a refund. This is what you call true love. Hilarious. This is the comedy of the year." In the cheap apartment, the fake tears on Marcus's face still clung to the corners of his eyes. He looked like a statue struck by lightning, staring fixedly at the screen. He scrambled for the mouse in a panic, trying to forcefully close the stream. "Shut it down! Damn it! Why won't it shut off? What's going on?" Marcus pounded the keyboard frantically. But his computer had been completely taken over by the top hacker from Prism Defense, and even the power button was useless. Vanessa, who was sitting beside him, was now completely dazed. Her face, worn from several days of fear and worry, was as pale as paper. She slowly turned her head to look at Marcus, her eyes full of disbelief and intense fury. "Marcus, what did you say in the video just now?" Vanessa's voice trembled, like a beast driven to the brink. "No, Vanessa, listen to me, it's AI generated. Adrian, that bastard is framing me." Marcus was making one last dying struggle, trying to grab Vanessa's shoulder. Crack! A deafening slap echoed through the live stream. Vanessa summoned all her strength and struck Marcus hard across the face, sending his gold-rimmed glasses flying. "You shameless liar! Scum!" Vanessa screamed hysterically, lunging forward to grab Marcus's hair and clothes. "I betrayed Adrian for you. I gave you all the money, the villa, even my principals. You were only planning to use me? I'll kill you!" Marcus's face was scratched, his true nature instantly revealed. He stopped pretending and shoved Vanessa hard to the ground, shouting, "Who do you think you are? Some noble goddess? If I could get money from your ex-husband, do you think I'd be interested in a stupid, vain, worthless woman like you? You deserve to be conned." Millions of viewers worldwide watched with relish in that pinned live stream that couldn't be closed, as the couple who had proclaimed themselves soulmates seconds before tore into each other on the floor like two stray dogs fighting over carrion. I sat in the chairman's office at the top of Abyss Capital, holding a cup of lukewarm coffee, watching the farce on the screen with cold detachment. "Boss, their psychological defenses have completely collapsed." Samantha stood behind me, a trace of contempt at the corner of her mouth. "Shall we proceed to the next step?" At the final straw, I set down my coffee cup, my tone so calm it was frightening. "Package all the high-definition evidence of Marcus's suspected years of transnational fraud, money laundering, and extortion, along with the transfer records showing Vanessa forcibly moving assets from my company and her suspected commercial embezzlement. Send one copy to the FBI and one to Interpol. And while you're at it, display these documents on loop across the live stream. At your command, boss." Samantha's finger tapped lightly on the tablet. In the next second, the live stream's display changed again. Countless case receipts stamped with the seals of police stations from various places, copies of Marcus's forged passports, and bank statements of Vanessa's illegal fund transfers poured across the screen like a waterfall. The two people rolling on the floor finally stopped, when they saw the irrefutable evidence on the screen that would land them in federal prison for a very long time. Both of them let out cries of despair. At that moment, a shrill siren blared through the live stream, growing louder and louder, as if it were right below their building. Bang! On the live stream, the thin wooden door of the cheap apartment was kicked open with a heavy boot. 6 fully armed FBI agents burst in with guns raised like gods of war descending. Red laser sights instantly covered Marcus and Vanessa from head to toe. "FBI, don't move! Get on the ground! Hands on your head!" the lead agent shouted loudly. Marcus was so scared he wet his pants. His legs went weak and he dropped to his knees, hands raised high, his whole body trembling like a sieve. Vanessa, meanwhile, went crazy and shouted at the agents. "I'm the victim! He deceived me! Go arrest him! I'm Adrian Vane's ex-wife! You can't do this to me, Ms. Vanessa Sterling! You are suspected of major embezzlement in a corporate position. money laundering, and perjury. Save your victim status for the judge in court, the agent said coldly as he forced her to the ground. Cold handcuffs clicked shut around her wrists. At the crisp sound of the handcuffs, the system in my mind issued its final alert. Beep, system detected. The host has completely destroyed the betrayer's assets, reputation, and psychological defenses, completing the final phase of ultimate revenge. Congratulations, host. The revenge mission is successfully completed. Your infinite reward system has been permanently integrated into your personal asset panel. You now own a vast empire including Abyss Capital, Trinity Hotel Group, Universal Aviation, and Matrix Technology, with total assets exceeding $1 trillion. The world is now beneath your feet. I watched the two people being dragged off the screen by the FBI agents like dead dogs, then reached out and pressed the power button. The screen went black in an instant, reflecting my calm face. Samantha. I stood up, walked to the huge floor-to-ceiling window, and looked down at Manhattan's glittering night view. I'm here, boss. Hang the Bond Technologies. Sign back up tomorrow morning. Also, book me a flight to Switzerland. It's time to go see those countless zeros in my account. I straightened my expensive bespoke suit and strode out of the office. Outside, the storm had passed, and the era belonging to Adrian Vane had only just begun. 40,000 feet up, stratospheric sunlight poured through the cabin window, spilling across an interior crafted from pure gold and top-grade calfskin. This is the top-tier, specially customized Gulfstream G800 from Huanyu Aviation Group, originally reserved only for Middle Eastern royalty. And now, it is my private ride. I sat on a wide, comfortable aviation leather sofa, holding a glass of Romani Conti from 60 years ago, enjoying an absolutely serene flight. Samantha, wearing a crisp white bespoke suit, sat across from me and elegantly opened a box of the pricey Caspian Beluga caviar. Boss, the latest news just came in from New York. Samantha handed me a tablet, a faint, charmingly cold smile at the corner of her mouth. Marcus and Vanessa's preliminary hearing results are out. I raised an eyebrow and took a sip of red wine. Oh, what did the federal judge say? Multiple convictions to be served consecutively. Marcus is involved in 7 counts of transnational grand fraud, money laundering, and forging commercial documents. He faces at least 150 years in prison. He will be sent to the highest security federal penitentiary and housed with the most brutal gang leaders. Samantha pushed up her gold-rimmed glasses and continued. As for Vanessa, she tried to pin all the charges on Marcus, claiming mental illness, but the evidence chain we presented was airtight, and the judge dismissed her claim on the spot. She was sentenced to 45 years for embezzlement and aiding money laundering. I heard she fainted from crying 3 times last night in the Manhattan Detention Center and even tried to call you to beg. Erase her name from my world completely. Leave no trace. I pushed the tablet back to Samantha, my gaze like dismissing 2 insignificant specks of dust, 2 crushed pests unworthy of my precious time. The revenge is over. The weak Adrian from before died on that stormy night at the motel. Now I am the ruler of a $1 trillion empire, standing at the pinnacle of global capital. Understood. Samantha put away the tablet, her expression gradually turning serious as she switched into work mode. But boss, our aggressive takeovers of Matrix Technologies, Sani Hotels, and North Atlantic Investment Bank, although covert, have still alarmed those old hands, lurking in the deep. You mean the old money families behind Wall Street? I set down my glass and asked with interest. To be precise, the Olympus Capital Alliance, in Europe. Samantha pulled up an extremely complex global capital structure chart. They are the invisible behemoths controlling global energy, pharmaceuticals, and traditional finance. You announced the restructuring of Vane Technologies just this morning, and they immediately launched a strike on the Nasdaq. Samantha's tone carried a hint of gravity. Just in the 1 hour since we took off, the Olympus Alliance teamed up with 3 top hedge funds, mobilizing a massive $20 billion to recklessly short our newly relisted Vane Technologies. They not only tried to crush us in the market, but also bribed the media to spread rumors that our technology is all fabricated. They want to teach you, this newly rich upstart, a bloody lesson, a $20 billion malicious short attack. If it had been the old me, facing such a scale of capital squeeze, I probably wouldn't have lasted even a minute before declaring bankruptcy and jumping off a building. But now, the moment Samantha finished speaking, the system in my mind, which had been silent for less than 24 hours, suddenly emitted an extremely dazzling golden light, and the notification tone was louder and more triumphant than ever before. The system has detected that the host's current environment has undergone a fundamental change. Infinite Critical Strike Cashback System, version 2.0 has automatically upgraded to Global Hegemony Counterattack System. System detected. The hostile capitalist force Olympus Alliance is maliciously shorting the host-owned Vane Technologies with $20 billion. Activating Dimensional Reduction Strike Defensive Critical. Congratulations, host. This enemy capital attack has triggered a 10,000-fold ultimate critical market support reward. $200 trillion of unlimited long-position funds have been connected to the world's highest-level quantum trading network, standing by for your command. At the same time, the system detected that the enemy attempted to smear the host in the field of technology, and has automatically issued SSS-level technical blueprints for you. Perfect synthesis formula for room temperature superconducting materials, and complete architecture of second-generation quantum computers. The materials have been encrypted and stored in your private core server. Listening to the announcement in my mind, the smile on my face grew wider and wider, and I finally couldn't help bursting into loud laughter in the quiet cabin. $200 trillion in market support funds, plus room temperature superconductivity and quantum computing technologies strong enough to trigger a fourth industrial revolution and utterly overturn the global technological landscape. Olympus Alliance? The old money families? They think they're using $20 billion to teach a nouveau riche a lesson, but they don't know that they've just, with their own hands, triggered the nuclear button that will destroy the entire old capital system. Boss? Are you alright? Samantha was taken aback by my sudden peal of laughter. I'm great, Samantha. Couldn't be better. I stopped laughing, and an uncontrollable aggressiveness flared in my eyes. Notify our trading team on Wall Street. For every short position the Olympus Alliance puts out, we take the opposite amount. Don't worry about cost. Ram the stock price up as hard as you can. I want their $20 billion to be completely liquidated before today's close, not leaving them a single bone. Also, notify the world's top 100 mainstream media outlets. I tapped the desk. Tomorrow morning, Abyss Capital will hold a technology launch at its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland that will change the course of human history. Samantha inhaled sharply, but the fanaticism in her eyes was instantly ignited. Yes, boss, we're going to give this world a little abyssal shock. A few hours later, the Gulfstream G800 smoothly touched down at Geneva International Airport, Switzerland. No sooner had we descended the stairs than a black motorcade of 10 armored Maybachs was quietly waiting on the apron. The current global president of Swiss Union Bank, a top financial magnate who usually has even heads of state queuing for an appointment, was now standing at the car door like a humble servant. He bowed respectfully and handed me a pure black metal card inlaid with black diamonds. Distinguished Mr. Vane, welcome to Switzerland. Your vast cash reserves in the underground vaults, so large they cannot be displayed by ordinary systems, have been fully prepared for you. The entire Swiss banking industry will forever be at your service. I took that black diamond card symbolizing the highest global wealth privileges and looked up toward the distant snow-capped peaks of the Alps. The old game is over. Now, let this global hegemony game of conquering the world officially begin. Geneva, the top-tier international conference center beside the Palais des Nations. There were 10 minutes until Wall Street opened, and my global press conference was already sold out in this giant domed venue that could seat 5,000. In the audience sat reporters from hundreds of the world's most influential media outlets, along with tech giants from Silicon Valley and financial titans from Wall Street who had come at the first whisper. Everyone wanted to know what the helmsman of Abyss Capital, who in the past 24 hours had upended half of Manhattan's capital circle with overwhelming force, was about to announce. I stood at the center of the stage under converging spotlights, wearing that bespoke all-black suit. Behind me was a 30-meter-long giant holographic projection screen. Samantha stood in the shadows backstage, reporting Wall Street's live situation to me through a hidden earpiece. Boss, Nasdaq has opened. The Olympus Alliance just dumped a massive $20 billion short position. They even used 5x leverage, trying to smash Vane Technologies stock through the floor in the first minute. I looked at the faces in the audience, whispering and wearing various expressions, and a cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Into the hidden microphone I uttered a single word. Crush them. At once. The system has connected to an infinite-long funding pool of $200 trillion. The quantum trading network is online. Samantha's voice betrayed an uncontainable fanaticism. In the digital world where no one noticed, a financial massacre that could be called a dimensionality reduction strike erupted in an instant. The Olympus Alliance's seemingly apocalyptic $20 billion short position was completely swallowed up in an instant by the endless ocean of $200 trillion. Not even creating a ripple. The stock price of Vane Technology didn't fall a penny. On the contrary, it rocketed upward in a terrifying, physics-defying straight line. 300%, 1000%, 5000%. My God! Look at the Nasdaq! A financial reporter in the audience suddenly screamed, dropping the camera in his hands to the floor. Everyone's attention was instantly drawn to their phones and computer screens. Within just 3 minutes, the 3 top hedge funds under the Olympus Alliance, unable to cover astronomical margin calls, were declared bankrupt. Those century-old old money families were, in that moment, utterly wiped out for their arrogance, left with horrific debts enough to make them want to jump off buildings 10,000 times. I ignored the gasps from the audience and lightly tapped the microphone in front of me. My low voice spread to every corner of the world watching the live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, the little incident on the Nasdaq just now was only the death knell tolled by the old era of capital. I turned around and snapped my fingers. The holographic screen behind me flared to life, displaying a set of extremely complex yet perfectly symmetrical molecular structures. Over the past century, humanity's ceiling has been locked by traditional energy and backward computational power. But today, Abyss Capital not only controls wealth. We will redefine the future of humanity. I took a seemingly ordinary black metal disc from my pocket and placed it on a base on the podium, without any cryogenic cooling or high-pressure environment. The black metal began to levitate in full view and started rotating with absolute smoothness around an invisible magnetic field. Room temperature superconducting material, the perfect synthesis protocol, and the underlying code for a second-generation quantum computer based on this architecture. No sooner had I finished speaking than the entire domed venue fell into a deathly silence. Every Silicon Valley tech magnate and top physicist looked like a believer who had seen God, their eyes bloodshot as they stared at the black metal hovering on stage, trembling violently all over. This is impossible. The holy grail of physics has been broken. The era of fossil fuels is over. All transmission losses and power will be reduced to zero. He is not just a trillionaire. He holds the key to humanity's leap in civilization. The insane cheers, the reporter's hoarse shouts, and even the sounds of people weeping from extreme excitement braided together, threatening to tear the roof off the venue. Beep system detected. The host has, through epic-making technology and absolute capital power, completely crushed all hostile old forces. Congratulations, host. Global hegemony has reached 100%. You are now the sole supreme ruler on Earth. The global financial system, the lifeblood of energy, and the future of technology are all entirely in your hands. The system's mission has been fully accomplished and will become your absolute subconscious, forever safeguarding you. In my mind, the mechanical female voice that had kept me company through countless days and nights finally transformed into a single ethereal sigh, melding completely into the depths of my soul. After the press conference, I stood alone on the balcony of the private estate by Lake Geneva. On a nearby television screen, global news was playing. Several rulers of the Olympus Alliance had been placed on the world's wanted list for allegedly manipulating the market and defaulting on massive debts. The scene shifted to show Marcus being warmly welcomed by several burly inmates in a maximum security prison in New York, while Vanessa, in the cramped, dim laundry room of the women's prison, scrubbed prison uniforms with a vacant look in her eyes. I lifted a glass of champagne and watched the bright moon hanging above the Alps in the distance. A few months earlier, I had been a desperate freeloader betrayed by his wife, penniless, and driven out of a motel into a torrential downpour. And now, with just a light tap of my fingers on the table, I can determine the economic lifeline of a country and steer the direction of human civilization. Boss. Samantha draped a pure black cashmere coat over my shoulders. In her eyes, besides all, there was deep submission. The heads of state of 200 countries and the CEOs of the world's top 100 tech companies are all waiting outside the manor to see you. Your empire is complete. Let them wait. I swirled the champagne in my glass and drank it in one. A breeze passed, and the surface of Lake Geneva rippled with golden light. I looked at this world that now belonged entirely to me, a faint smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Money is just numbers. Revenge is merely foreplay. The truly interesting game is only just beginning. And that's a wrap, folks. If this story gave you that sweet dopamine hit and was more satisfying than peeling the plastic off a brand new TV, do me a massive favor. Obliterate that like button and hit subscribe. I'm locked in the content mine serving up fresh, ridiculously satisfying stories every single day. See you tomorrow for your next fix.